Hello, welcome to episode 4 of versus Wentworth Reviews. Now I'm going to talk about Jim Fletcher now from the original series of Prisoner. Now Jim Fletcher was introduced in season 1 of Prisoner, and he's played by a brilliant actor, Gerard Maguire, who is also in the film Kitty and the Bagman, which also stars prisoner actress Colette Main, who plays the original Doreen Anderson, and Val Lehman, who plays the original top dog B. Smith. And that's also a very good movie, which I will be reviewing as well, but not in this particular review. This is all about Prisoner versus Wentworth. And anyway, Jim Fletcher was transferred from Pentridge to Wentworth, which Pentridge is a male prison, and Jim Fletcher was an ex-Vietnam Army dude as well. So he sort of had that strict type of, attitude when he first arrived, and he wasn't liked very much by Meg at first because he said something a little bit harsh. Even though he realized that he said something so hurtful about her husband who died or was killed ages ago in the first ever riot in the series, way back episodes ago. And he also seemed very homophobic in the beginning of the series as well. Which is interesting because later on down the track, to me, he became a very likable character, and I'm a huge Jim Fletcher fan. Just at first, he seemed like, oh my god, I'm so not going to like this guy. He's going to be a terrible officer. But no, he wasn't a terrible officer as well. Yes, he did get involved with a character who wasn't really one of my favourite characters and anything, but that's a little bit later in the series. And him and Judith McGrath's character have something very similar, meaning both their families were killed terribly. Like, they lost their son, their daughter, and husband, their whole family. Jim Fletcher was the original prison officer who lost his family. A different way, of course, but it was pretty tragic. But that's a little bit late in the series when Ray Mager comes and plays the first role that he plays in Prisoner, because Ray Mager, who is also famous for playing Alf Stewart in the series Home and Away, also played in Prisoner as well. I was very surprised to see him. I'm like, oh, I recognise that face. He's in Home and Away. I've seen him somewhere before, and I knew who it was. But of a younger version, of course. And he plays basically 3 different villains in the show. In the first series, later on down the track, and then in the last season as well. So that's very interesting, especially his last role, who to me was one of the other vicious roles in the series as well. I actually quite liked his second villain that he played. Not the first, Jim Fletcher's ex-army mate, but the second role he played with Sonia Stevens was quite a good role. And then he played Ernest Craving, who I absolutely despise. No wonder they considered Blackmore as the black hole. And anyway, in Wentworth, there was a Matthew Fletcher many seasons ago, and I was thinking this must be based off the Jim Fletcher character. They just changed his name from Jim to Matthew, because it did have some similarities. In a way, the Matthew Fletcher character was similar to Jim in the way that he was an ex-army dude as well, but he looked a lot more traumatized than what the original Jim Fletcher was like. the Matthew Fletchering Wentworth mini seasons ago. And he had a bit of a traumatizing past because of being involved in war and stuff like that. So that's my comparison video to the Jim Fletcher and the Matthew Fletcher of the original series, with Jim Fletcher in Prisoner Cell Block H, and in the reboot or remake, the Matthew Fletcher character, which was many seasons ago. He is no longer involved in the series of Wentworth, but I'm not going to give anything too much away of that either. But just before I go, I just want to mention I'm really looking forward to the rest of watching Prisoner Cell Block H my second time around, and especially after Jim Fletcher's arrival, you really get to see him change, and he becomes quite likable. I really liked his character, actually, just not at first. At first, he seemed too much of a tool, and he seemed a bit homophobic in a way. But I think that was quite popular for uh, the 70s and that decade, for characters to be kind of like that, either homophobic or sexist or racist. Or as B. Smith called him, a male chauvinist pig, basically. So that's my review on Prisoner versus Wentworth, and more or less talking about the character of Jim Fletcher. Comment below, let me know what you think of the original Jim Fletcher and the Matthew Fletcher from Wentworth, as well as the original from Prisoner. Until next time, bye.